Eliot's. This is Loki.
And this is Tyr.
And I've got an episode for you this week. We're going to tell you a little tale about, a war, I guess.
A battle, yeah.
Which are usually my favorite thing to write. I had some struggles, but I got through it. 2 days, a hard push, like seriously 2 whole days of writing. I don't know how you do it, because you just seem to plow through writing, and it takes me forever.
No, not really. I mean, I don't feel like I write any more than the average person. But like I'll write a lot. Like when I'm motivated, I jump on it, and then I'll just stop writing for a few days, which is terrible habit. But
it was so
I'm
hard.
working on it.
I enjoyed the chapter, but it was still so hard to write like 5 pages a day.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, but you did it in a couple of days, and you didn't take like the whole week or whatever to write it this time?
I just couldn't. I had so much stuff going on. I had to make it happen in those 2 days, and like I knew if I didn't have it written by the end of the second day, I might not finish it. Like, so.
Still, I mean, that's pretty impressive, getting that much written in 2 days.
So that's what made it not so fun, though, is kind of having to be forced to do it. I don't like being told what to do.
I so feel you on that one.
So I feel like there's a lot of writers that get into it because they don't like being told what to do. So.
I know, but I mean, does it really count when you're telling yourself what to do?
Yeah, I don't know.
A little bit.
Like the universe is saying, you got to get this done. And it's like, no. But I did it. I made it through. Hopefully it's high quality. So there will need to be some editing. And in fact,
it's a first
by
draft.
the end, there's a little part at the end that I'm like, should I have added Rowan back in? Should I have like brought it around so that because I feel like if she's tethered to Annalise, and I didn't write about this, and maybe we should, that if Annalise dies, Rowan should too. And
is it that kind of a contract?
I don't know, but the Fomorians are they're a dark people in our universe. You know, they're dictatorial and.
Okay, here's my thing then. If you're gonna go that route, I feel like it needs to be Rowan is the one who kills her.
Sacrificing herself.
Uh-huh.
I know. I don't know. I really built up Shayla and Eliot's relationship in this.
I know you did. And you know what? Like, I wouldn't have a problem with Shayla being the one who, like, sneaks up on her and takes her on. But in the end, it needing to be Rowan who's the one who strikes the final blow. For whatever reason. Because she's going to get to Eliot anyway, or whatever it is, you know?
Yeah. Well, maybe I hop into the story, and we see what we think.
Sounds good. Well, we can, check it out once you go for it.
You ready?
Yep.
Eliot frantically runs through a thick gray fog, trying to find his way out. The air smells earthy, and his mouth tastes like iron. A subtle, echoey chatter fills his ears, like people talking in the distance. He can't make out their words. The dim light affords him no aid in finding his bearings. Lee, Eliot yells desperately. His voice echoes back subtly. Where am I, he thinks to himself. Almost frantic, the feeling of being lost overwhelms him. Shayla, he shouts, his voice echoing once again. He panics, batting at the fog as he runs, hoping to move it, but does nothing to clear his line of sight. Wren, Gary, Nigel, anybody, he screams, but to no avail. His screams echo back at him and fade away. Nobody answers. He slows his run to a walk, and eventually the fog thins enough to make out silhouettes, booths of strange wares, still shadowy and faint. Is this the bazaar? He asks himself aloud. He tries to lift an object, but as he attempts to pick it up, he can't identify it. The object, form, and coloration remain too vague to make out. Eliot looks back out across the bazaar, hoping to find something familiar, but all that appears as he squints his eyes are ghostly shadows moving about, as though living life but unaware of him. Eliot rubs his arms as though cold, but must admit he feels nothing. The chatter in the background lulls into a rhythm, which begins to sound like a song. Is that all along the watchtower? War drums beat out in an ominous, rhythmic rally. I should have probably paused there before war drums is a separation. War drums beat out an ominous, rhythmic rally cry as magic, stone, and debris batter the Combine's mystical shields. Ripples of iridescent magic energy course across its surface with every impact. Angry Fey youth charge in disorganized wave after disorganized wave, unleashing their fury at the Combine's citadel, as Annalise's army waits patiently behind them for the attacks to wear the shields down. They surround the tower entirely. Pack leaders pace in front of their soldiers, shouting words of leadership, swelling their bloodlust. Soldiers riding atop massive beasts do their best to maintain control of the excited monsters who are hungry for battle. Angry Fey youth chant anti-disestablishment hymns reminiscent of the 1960s, seemingly unaware of the irony standing directly behind them. If one looked closely, they would spot nervous onlookers spectating from the tree line. Lee watched from a window as Nigel set to work trying to save Eliot. Lee was worried, but a little relief came over him when he saw that the ancestral witches did not stand with Annalise and her army. He stood and imagined what he knew he would eventually have to do. Drastically outnumbered, he feared this would be his last stand, and not to mention the probable end of the Combine and the Hunters. He surveyed sorcerers at perches up the tower, casting various spells, possibly in an attempt to fortify, but he knew they would not last forever. They would eventually be forced to fight. Lee was nervous at this thought. Shayla wrung her hands together in a state of distilled anxiety. Eliot strangely meant a lot to her. They had not known each other long, but she had grown attached. He was her favorite minion, she thought to herself as a tear welled up in her eye. She damned herself for not learning any healing magic. Dragons were near immortal after all, and prior to now, the notion of healing a mortal was ridiculous, but this moment left her humbled. What would she do without him? Her only friend. She stared as Nigel worked, even contemplated eating him if he failed. But she knew telling him that would not make him work any faster or more efficiently. So she decided to hold on to that information for later. Should she exact punishment, or if Eliot pulled through, they could have a laugh about it later. The thought almost cheered her up a moment. Humans are so fragile, she snorted to herself, but then became sad again, remembering Eliot was a human. Ugh, I forget sometimes. He's so dragon-like at moments, she thought with a sigh. Ren handed Shayla a coffee, snapping her out of her trance. Shayla looked at the cup, confused a moment. I don't drink coffee without tons of flavoring or booze in it. She became a little agitated a moment and thought to say something, but remembered how Eliot would act, just being thankful someone thought of him. Shayla then looked up at Ren, realizing she was just trying to keep busy to satisfy the feeling of anxiety and worry. She wore it on her face. Gary wiped things down and threw away scraps of trash he found, and Lee, even ever the protector, the sentinel, kept watch and plotted plans. Nigel reads the spell from the book aloud, his words heavy in the air, carrying in unnatural ways, in a voice not his own. He sweats as the spell strains him. His concentration and concern are both visible on his face. His entire body is held as though heavy with the burden of saving this life that lay broken before him. His movements are forceful, as though willing his effect into existence with his whole being. Ribbons of energy begin to flicker into being and course across Eliot's body. Shayla's eyes widen in captivation. Bolts of pastel lightning stream from the sky, burning the shadows away. Eliot runs, ducking and covering his head as the bolts seem to make chase. The bolts evaporate the bazaar from around him as they strike the shadowy forms and drain them from existence, causing the ash to rise into the air, adding to the forming black clouds. Eddies of shadowy ash swirl about, building into a massive storm of black and electric blues, pinks, and purples overhead. Eliot is dwarfed by the event that begins to close in on him. A massive dark face forms in the clouds of shadowy ash, looking about as if searching. The cloud seems to spot him running and locks its gaze on Eliot. The cloud looks down upon Eliot and studies his form a moment. Eliot can feel the face peering deep inside him. The gaze begins to make him ill. He's not sure how much longer he can continue to run. Nigel seems to struggle with the spell. His face twists as though in pain. He winces in pain as the mystical energy of the tower and the light flickers as though he can feel the attacks on the tower. He lets out a gasp and steadies himself, redoubling his efforts, concentrating on the spell. "Lee," Nigel yells in a tone that suggests peril. "I don't think those shields are going to hold out much longer, friend. I need you to get down there and buy me some time." "What do you want me to do, Nigel? She has an army. I need you to be a leader. I need you to rally who we have and defend this tower long enough to save the kid." "Okay, who's coming?" Lee looks around at the others, only to realize that he may be on his own. "I got your back, buddy." Gary pats Lee on the shoulder. "But I think the women folk should guard the room." "I ain't moving till Eliot's safe," Shayla states, with a matter-of-fact tone. "We will watch the door. Nobody will get past us," Ren assures Lee, looking down to Rowan. "We will buy Nigel the time he needs if they get past you." Lee nods with a somber look on his face. "Okay, Gary, let's go save the day." "You got it, buddy." Lee and Gary walk out the door. Ren and Rowan drag a couple of chairs out of the room and sit in the hall. Shayla can hear them making conversation, but all she can think about is her friend. She looks to Annalise's sword on the table by the door and is filled with rage. She hopes to herself that she has the chance to kill Annalise herself. She envisions the slow torture she will inflict on the Fomorian warlord, and for a moment a smile creeps across her face. And then the smile fades as reality creeps back in, leaving only anger and pain. Lee steps outside to survey his odds from the ground. Gary finishes up leading their small but powerful fighting force to the lobby door of the Combine, where they impatiently await Lee's signal. Lee checks his gun, reassuring himself that it's well loaded and ready. Then he looks to the tree line in hopes of drawing the sympathies of any onlookers. Maybe, he thinks, maybe they will be drawn to help. He bows his head a moment, takes a deep breath to ready himself for what's to come. In a flash of iridescent light, the bombardment finally overwhelms the Combine's shields, and they melt away. The allies of the Combine gasp as they watch their final defenses melt to the ground. "Here we go," Lee yells, attempting to take a shot at Annalise as she raises her arm to signal the first wave. A Fomorian soldier jumps in the way, taking the bullet. The shot signals the fighters of the Combine to pour from the lobby. Annalise hesitates a moment, realizing what just happened, and then screams a Fomorian war call, which signals her armies to charge. Lee fires round after round past the Fae at the Fomorian generals in hopes of landing a shot. The Fomorians are eager to return fire, but remain patient as Annalise holds the signal to attack back. A marching line of sorcerers unleash a barrage of energy blasts from their staves and wands, clashing with the magic abilities and spells of the Fey youth charging them. Magical energy forms a bright miasmic haze that begins to engulf the field of battle. blast after blast sends the young rebellious Fae flying back at the army behind them. The wounded slink away. Those who can return to the fray do so. The first tide looks as though it is going to the Combine. Lee breathes a sigh of relief as the sorcerers push back the invasion. Shayla didn't even notice herself getting excitable, cheering Nigel and Eliot on under her breath. Come on, you can do it, she whispers as she jerked about, mocking help. She does the same thing when watching Eliot play video games. Eliot has mentioned it to her, but she says she can't help it. She just gets so excited sometimes and that she can't contain it. She has slowly crept closer and closer as Nigel works, still trying not to get in the way. I just wish there was something I could do, or some way I could help, she thinks. She doesn't even notice the orb of energy she has encased them in. Nigel's eyes are closed tight, but as Shayla's magic shell encloses around them, his magic becomes visible. A mystical knotwork shimmering into existence over Eliot, and an eye at its center darts around, looking where a set of magic tendrils constructed of orange light dig around inside Eliot's body. Ribbons of energy course across him as his muscles twitch where the tendrils work. Reality ripples around where the tendrils pierce his flesh. Nigel chants the words that seem to power the spell. Shayla instinctively repeats the words softly, chanting an almost quiet echo. She doesn't know if it's doing anything, but she is taking no chances. This feels like good luck, and she has committed. Eliot runs anywhere he thinks he will find cover, as the world he inhabits is torn apart by the shadow storm. The ash face gazes upon him no matter where he runs. He cannot escape it. Eliot notices a new light as he runs, a shimmery neon light with streams of blue and pink. It feels familiar and friendly. He runs for the light, which seems to peacefully approach him from the distance. He is still pursued by the shadowy face, but he feels hope as the neon lights draw near. Eliot begins to slow his pace to a jog and then eventually to a walk. The light is a being, a person, a little girl. Fomorian warg riders charge as sorcerers use blasts of fire and ice to dismount them. Lee lands a fatal shot on a Fomorian general, sending him collapsing to the ground. The beast he was riding runs wild, no longer leashed by a master. Sorcerers have to dive out of the way as the monstrous wolf-like troll charges through their ranks, breaking a hole in their front line. Opportunistic Fomorians and Fae charge through the hole, overrunning some of the Combine's soldiery. A single sorcerer puts down the bucking warg, ending its rampage, and then turns his blast on the Fae who broke through, pushing them back. Lee watches Annalise grit her teeth as she continues to fail to make headway. Her losses are stacking up, and she is becoming desperate. Lee revels in her disappointment for a moment, dodging hits and counter-striking as he continues to advance towards her. If I could just get one good shot on her, he thinks, it'll be all over. He lifts his gun to fire another round at her, but he is struck by a charging soldier before he can get the shot off. The bullet goes wild. Lee turns to engage the soldier. The soldier brandishes his sword, twirling it around his hand, attempting to menace Lee, who is unfazed by the display. The Fomorian soldier swings wildly at Lee, who quickly fires a shot, blasting the sword out of the soldier's hand. The soldier lunges at Lee, knocking him to the ground. Lee and the soldier roll around fighting on the ground. The soldier attempts to pry the gun from Lee's hand as they roll back and forth. The soldier bashes Lee's hand against the ground, forcing it from his hand, sending it across the ground into the fray of battle. In a panic, Lee scrambles for his gun. The Fomorian scrambles to stop Lee. The two warriors resort to punches. Lee swings hard at the Fomorian, whose lean, fit body takes the hit with ease. The Fomorian punches Lee in the face, which rattles Lee, but Lee thinks fast. Rolling with the punch, Lee allows himself to roll back as though the punch was worse than it was. By the time the Fomorian had realized what had happened, Lee had rolled back and crouched over his gun. The Fomorian quickly spotted his blade, but by the time he had dropped back to grab it, Lee fired a killing shot. Once again, the Fomorian army was pushed back by the slowly shrinking defense force of the Combine. Lee is sure the look on Annalise's face is her calculating her odds of surviving this fight. And he is certain that the number she just came to is not good by the look on her face. And in a moment of what Lee is sure is desperation by the smell of it, she unleashes the entirety of her force. And as Lee is sure the odds are completely in his favor, the sounds of motorcycles overwhelm the battlefield. Do you want me to keep going?
Sorry. I don't know why that... Oh, my goodness. Is it clear?
No.
Yeah, but it's not that. It's the microphone.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with it.
Hear me now? Better?
Now it is.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. I mean, we can go straight through if you want to. Are you like at a halfway point?
I don't know. Probably, but I can keep going.
Okay.
Okay. We'll just keep going then.
Okay.
Shayla's acute hearing can make out the sound of dozens of bikes, and she knows that there is a werewolf hot for Eliot's blood riding each one of them. Annalise's war drums pick up pace. She fears that the two forces have joined, leaving Lee little chance of success. Shayla hears Gary in the hall. The wolves are here, you guys. We need all the help we can get. All right, Rowan, let's go. Lee needs our help, Ren responds. I'll help with the wolves, but my contract forbids me from hurting Annalise. Whatever you can do, I'll take it, Gary replies. Shayla continues to listen as the three friends run off to battle. Shayla grimaces as she can feel her anxiety welling up as things are seemingly getting worse, and she knows Eliot is not out of the woods yet. She closes her eyes tight and begins to focus on her friend. Shayla grimaces as she can feel her anxiety welling up as things are seemingly getting worse, and she knows Eliot is not out of the woods yet. Her eyes tight and begins to focus on her friend. Shayla grimaces, feel her anxiety as things are seemingly getting worse, and she knows Eliot is not out of the woods yet. Her eyes tight and begins to focus on her friend. Shayla grimaces, feel her anxiety as things are seemingly, and she knows Eliot is not out of the woods yet. Her eyes tight and begins to focus on her friend. Shayla grimaces, feel her anxiety as things are seemingly, and she knows Eliot is not out of the woods yet. Her eyes tight and begins to focus on her friend. Shayla grimaces, feel her anxiety as things are seemingly, and she knows Eliot is not out of the woods yet. Her eyes tight and begins to focus on her friend. Shayla grimaces, feel her anxiety as things are seemingly yet. Her eyes tight and begins to focus on her friend. Shayla grimaces, feel her anxiety as things are seemingly yet. To focus on her friend. Shayla grimaces. Feel her anxiety as things are seemingly to focus on her friend. Shayla grimaces. Feel her anxiety as things are seemingly to focus on her friend. Shayla grimaces. Feel her anxiety Shayla grimaces. Shayla grimaces. Shayla grimaces. Shayla grimaces.